Well, I'm Don Mosley, and I just want to say that, like most of the rest of you in this circle, I could talk for at least 2 hours just to summarize inspiring things that I owe to Millard. But very briefly, I still remember that moment. We walked, Carolyn and I, my wife and I, walked into the Habitat, into the Koinonia office in June of 1970 when we first arrived here. And one of the very first people to come running up like he'd been waiting for us for years was Millard. And Millard grabbed my hand and shook it and shook it and shook it. Don, oh, we're so glad to have you here. And I came to realize that's the way this guy is most of the time. And I really grew to love it. So I was not too surprised when a short time later he said, Don, I want to put you in charge of the housing project here at Koinonia. I said, Millard, I never built a house in my life. I was a mechanical engineer back in my father's company. He said, oh, you'll learn fast, never mind. And so then many stories followed after that, and I was very privileged to be the foreman and actual designer on paper, I think, of most of the houses in Forest Park and Koinonia Village. But one of the greatest events of all was the night before, I think it was the night before you guys left Koinonia for Zaire. Millard and Linda and Chris and Kim and Faith and Georgia and our kids, we were all up here, the fourth house in here on the north side of the North Street in Koinonia Village. I'm not sure who lives there right now, but that's a historic spot because Millard and I, while Linda and Carolyn were preparing a meal and the kids were romping around all over the house, Millard and I got up in that front corner of that living room in that little house up there and started brainstorming about how, with my Peace Corps background and his and all of our other stuff, how could we somehow begin to make this thing grow. And he said over and over in later years that was the moment of conception for Habitat for Humanity and then for Fuller Center for Housing. And today millions of people are living in good houses because Millard didn't just think about it. He was a man who put his thoughts into action, and he went out, and his actions and his attitude inspired everybody else. And the more I tried to act like Millard, the more I got excited too. And I could tell you 300 more stories, but I'll pass it on instead.